7.
Okay, let us get our thought council started. Let me welcome Andile Stemela Stemela Andile, Fund Manager for Strategic Project Fund at the NEF. Good morning and welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, Lucona. It is Stemela.
Oh, Stemela, right.
Thank you for having me and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you so much for making the time. Let me also welcome Rosheda Mula, President, South African Informal Traders Alliance. Rosheda, good morning and welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning and thank you for having me on your airwaves.
Thank you so much for joining us. Inga Kubega, are you with us? Good morning.
I'm with you, Lucona. I'm with you, sir.
Thank you very much. Andile, I'm going to be welcoming other guests as we go along. Let me start off with you as the National Empowerment Fund. When the President emphasizes on localization, no doubt to you as the NEF, the burden to fund and the burden to come to the party increases. What has your take been on this call for localization, and where are you even reimagining perhaps how you deploy your strategic funds?
Thanks for that, Lucona. Indeed, I think the call for localization has been at the core of our strategic thrust to create black industrialists within this country. And to this effect, within the NEF, we have a number of funds that are set up to help along the spectrum of businesses, right from, your small and medium enterprises to your businesses that are looking to be industrial in scale in the long term. To this end, the fund that I'm responsible for, the Strategic Projects Fund,
yes,
is responsible for investing in the early stage development projects within the industrial space. And by that I mean within manufacturing, infrastructure type projects and the like. This is important because what we feel is that if indeed we are to take localization seriously, we have to start from the ground up. And this necessarily means we need to add more capacity in all industries, which includes, in this case, green industries, agro-processing, and the like, you know. So the projects that we work on are green and brownfields projects. These projects are intended to create businesses that were not there before, but would definitely play a strategic role in actually replacing our reliance in some industries on imported finished goods. And this is the space within which we play. So for us, the call for localization is timely, maybe a bit late, but it has definitely been at the forefront of what we are trying to do as a strategic projects fund, but also as a national empowerment fund going into funding of black businesses.
Now, Andile, when you talk about businesses that were not there before, how do you ensure, insofar as your selection criteria, where to go, who to partner with? How do you foolproof that process? Because we know that there have been cries at some point that some people, it's as if they are using the NEF as a slush fund, they never get to pay back on time and so on. In terms of ensuring you foolproof the process of identifying these new businesses and also perhaps give new players, an opportunity. So people who might have never owned businesses rather than perhaps looking at those who have owned businesses. How do you navigate that space?
Thanks for that, So it's interesting you say foolproof. I think one of the myths that we need to shed very early on in any of our discussions in business funding is that there is nothing that is foolproof. A business can be great for 5 years and an incident like the COVID pandemic leads to its closing or shutting of the doors, So there is no such thing. However, our thrust is always to say, because this is early stage funding of projects, we have to de-risk the project. Therefore, what we do is we work with a number of service providers to independently create bankable business plans or bankable feasibility studies, as we call it. in order to do this, obviously, you can't then use a debt instrument because there is no business to begin with. So we would take an equity position or equity stake as the NEF and fund using a blend of instruments which is very patient, which has very little recourse until the business gets to a point where it reaches what we call financial close and goes into implementation and construction. So our independent service providers play a critical role to ensure that whatever business case we put together, we can then go out into the market by the time we're approaching financial close and source other co-funders, source offtake agreements, etc., with that business case. And it can be a business case that great confidence can be taken in because it's not done just by an entrepreneur who has the desire to be this industrialist, but it's actually backed up by independent engineering studies, market studies, financial plans, and so forth that can actually stand on their wallet, as I like to call it.
Yeah. Okay. We're also joined, of course, by SEDA's Senior Manager of Analysis, Design and Learning at SEDA, Andrew Baum. Good morning and welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for making the time. Let us just differentiate you. I know NEF has a separate mandate that is quite distinct from SEDA. But as SEDA, when you hear the continuous calls for localization and to catalyze the local economy and make sure that, we can procure locally produced products, locally innovated products, as SEDA, how have you positioned yourself to support these calls as part of economic recovery in our country?
No, thank you very much for the question. Maybe just to start with, to say, obviously this is a national government priority. And as SEDA, we fall under the Department of Small Business Development, together with our sister agency, the Small Enterprise Financing Agency. And we're obviously talking to this. So I will just speak from SEDA's perspective in terms of our mandate, which is the provision of non-financial support to SMMEs and potential entrepreneurs, to obviously create all the good things, job growth, reduction in, deterioration in finances of SMMEs, survivability increase, etc. With regards to the localization initiative, as a portfolio, we've approached it by sourcing specific products, and there's a list that's been gazetted with the relevant standards in terms of what specific products are opportune for us to try and localize and start manufacturing onshore, because a lot of them are very, very simple items that SMMEs are well positioned to be able to manufacture, but for some reason we continue to bring them in from overseas.
Through imports, yes.
So maybe just a couple of quick examples. Things like an ice cream stick or a tongue depressor that's used in a dentist's office are things that we bring in where we've got big plantations, and it's very, very simple in order to manufacture them. So we support in setting up, helping SMMEs get the capacity and the technologies to be able to provide that, and then link them into agreements with retailers. So we've gone out and we've got a number of agreements with large-scale retailers in the country, where we can then ensure that as soon as those products meet spec and they're able to supply at volume, they get that market access opportunity so it gets onto the shelves and gets bought by South Africans. Maybe some other examples in terms of agri-produce, certain herbs like basil and turmeric are also down there. And there's a myriad of other projects. But as I said, there is a list that's been communicated of what we're specifically looking for at the moment.
And Andrew, in terms of identifying these small businesses that can be plugged into these projects, are you looking within what you've always had in SEDA under your different incubators, or you are actually widening the scope and opening it up for new players to come on board? And if so, how will you ensure that in your selection you are quite fair and broadening the opportunities to as many people in the country as possible?
Thank you for the question again. Maybe just to correct something that may be a misunderstanding. So part of SEDA operates the incubators, which are sector-specific or digital hubs, etc. There's another arm and division of SEDA that caters to the general public, and everybody's welcome to get support through them. And that's done on a needs basis. Together with that, we've advertised these through the SMM ESA portal as well as through the department as an open call. So all SMMEs who are interested in those opportunities can apply. There's obviously a validation process that will be gone through in terms of the technology, the management, some diagnostics will be conducted, and then the ones that will be successful, if I can call it that, where we allocate the resources, are those that are going to be best positioned to fulfill those orders successfully, where we can really get the impact for the economy in terms of transformation, in terms of our own specific mandate that our minister is really trying to champion is township and rural, and really trying to drive those key objectives, but ensuring that the supply to the corporates and the retailers is competitive product that meets the requisite standards, it will be done on time, and so that we've got quality products made locally by our people that can go into the market.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Inga, let me bring you in. I mean, you are listening to these conversations we are having around the issues of funding. I'm not sure which line is that, giving me a bit of echo on the ear. But Inga, as I am saying, I mean, you are listening to NEF, you are listening to SIDA, you are an entrepreneur, and just give us perhaps a quick description. What is it that you do, and what have your experiences been with trying to source funding in the South African scene?
Oh, well, basically, my name is Inga Kubeka. I run a design company called Inga Atelier, well, design and manufacturing. So, we employ about 36 people, and we manufacture bags made in South Africa. So I design, and we've got a manufacturing side of things. So some of the difficulties, in applying for funding, I think the main problem here that I came across is that the criteria is very wrong. I don't think it includes, a normal person like myself, for instance, and a lot of other designers that I know, One of the reasons being that I want to highlight is the fact that, for instance, either SIDA or NF or whatever, for manufacturing, they'll give you the criteria that this funding is going to be for machinery, to make an example. Now, in my case, I don't need machinery. I need funding to create inventory, for instance, or I need a finance to employ people so that I can upskill them, basically. So things like that. So the criteria is what I find that is not accurate, in all of these departments, because you can't want to give me money and dictate what I should do with that money, whereas you don't understand what my business needs are. And
you don't need machinery because your bags are actually handcrafted. Is that the point?
No, the point is I already have machinery.
Okay.
But none of these. But the funding criteria requires you to want funding for machinery, which I already have.
Mm.
And there's a lot of people like that, like in manufacturing, people who are designers. They also have like the same issue that I have. We want the funding for other things within the business, and the things are listed into the business plan in terms of what do we need the funding for. But that is disregarded, and therefore we're excluded from the funding because the funding mostly is 80% machinery. That's what the issue is.
Now, Inga, talking about this criteria being wrong, you have put out a story which concerned me when I came across it, that you might actually be getting funding overseas now.
I actually did. Matter of fact, I'm moving my operations to Dubai.
That is extremely sad. It must be sad for you as well, as a citizen to have to be uprooted from your country simply because you feel that the scene is not good enough for you to receive the necessary funding.
Yeah, it is very sad. I would have loved to keep my company in South Africa. Unfortunately, I'm only going to keep my manufacturing here. The head office has moved to Dubai already, and everything else is moving to Dubai because our funding came from there. And our investors wanted us to set up in Dubai, and it's just unfortunate, that a brand like mine is leaving because we couldn't find the financing in South Africa, basically, and the government couldn't help us with our needs.
What future implications does this have for your manufacturing? Because it might just be a matter of time before we see that also, being exported to Dubai. Are you concerned that this may become a reality at some point? And if for it not to become a reality, is there still any room for intervention from the various state-aligned entities that are dealing with funding?
Yes, there's still a room, because I negotiated, for instance, with my investors that I want to keep on manufacturing here, and I listed the number of reasons, one of them being me being very passionate about youth unemployment, and employing people and developing my country, but I'm not sure, how long I will hold on to that with the investors, I'm not sure in the future that I might get a little bit of pressure from the investors to say, look, let's move manufacturing to Turkey, for instance. Let's move manufacturing to Vietnam or whatever the case is. There is still some intervention, that can be done so that, at least I get to keep manufacturing forever in South Africa,
Okay.
Yeah, there is. There is a room for that.
All right, this is our Thought Council looking at localization as a key component of the economic recovery plan. And of course, we've got NEF, CEDA, Entrepreneur. And now I'm going to turn my attention to informal traders. But that line is 0861 987 000 if you want to be part of this conversation. And of course, you can tweet me at Lukona Mnguni, #PowerTalk. Rosheda, you are listening to these opportunities. You are hearing the frustrations of an entrepreneur, but most of it seems the informal traders space is not even in the horizon of some of these opportunities.
Hi, yes, thank you once again. I think I just want to give a brief overview of who SAITA is. SAITA is South African Informal Traders Alliance, a national organization that has presence in each province. As late as yesterday, we had a virtual meeting with the Minister of Department of Small Business Development. Yes, I can understand and align myself with the entrepreneurs' frustration. And the informal economy workers extend to about 4 million across the country. Now, we are mainly working in unenabling conditions. We are at the taxi ranks, on the street corners, in marketplaces, without any infrastructure, without an enabling environment. And we have made it clear to the minister that when they plan on programs for the informal sector economy, that the leadership of SAITA and other organizations in informal trade should be around the same table before they launch something like TREP. Let's talk about TREP. One of our members applied. He met all criteria, and yet he was declined. So we are concerned about victimization, corruption in municipalities, and people that intervene to let us gain access. And the entrepreneur was correct by saying the criteria are beyond us. Now, if you look at an informal trader, a gogo sitting on the
Rashida,
corner...
let's hold that thought. I'm going to come back to you. I just have to take news headlines quickly. And my guest, please just be patient with me. And then I've got the callers there.